to the Rural Revival Podcast. I'm your host, Dana Larson. On today's episode, photographer Stacy Preston is showing us how a creative business is possible in a small town. Based out of Lynchburg, Tennessee, Stacy is sharing her love for photography as a way to preserve history and how she has turned a lifelong hobby and dream into a profitable business. We're talking about how she found her style, combining creativity and business, and how her family has inspired her mission. Now, I've got a quick question for you. Do you love your branding? Like, really love it? If you love your business but are not in love with your branding, we want to help change that for you. Branded by Rural Revival is our rural design studio where we are helping small business owners and small towns with websites, design, marketing assets, brand kits, and more. Our number one goal is to help provide the tools you need to succeed in the best way possible as a small business or a small town, so you can finally have that brand that you love. If you want to learn more about how we can help you or check out some of our latest work, go to brandedbyruralrevival.co or find the link in our show notes. And now, here we go with Stacy Preston. All right, we're here with Stacy Preston of Stacy Preston Photography in Lynchburg, Tennessee. Stacy, thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. You're adorable.
Well, we had to give a shout out to Kayla White, who's
Yes.
the one who connected us.
She did.
She's like, this would be a great podcast.
Yeah.
So thanks for being up for it.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Tell us a little bit about you. Is this your hometown?
This is my hometown.
Okay.
I grew up here. I've lived here my entire life. I did go to MTSU for public relations through college, but I didn't live there. I got married at a young age,
Okay.
and my husband and I live on his family farm. So it's pretty neat. There's a little white house on our property, and that's actually where his grandpa grew up.
Okay.
And my husband's a cattle farmer with his dad. And so we lived there. We built there when I was pretty young. And I traveled from it's a little community called Lois, but it's in Moore County. You know, we say Lynchburg for everything here. But anyway, so I traveled to MTSU every day there. I've never wanted to leave. I mean, when I was in high school, I wanted to leave. You know, I think everybody kind of does, but I'm very thankful that I didn't, because I don't know if I would, be doing what I'm doing right now. But I grew up, my family's home. My mom and dad, they built their house. They still live in it, and the property they live on, we call it the old place. It's where my papa grew up, and so it's land that's been in our family for 200 something years.
Wow.
And they used the lumber that they, logged from where the house stands now to build their house. So
Oh my goodness.
we've always
Amazing.
lived here. I know, I love that. And I didn't appreciate that when I was a kid, but now I'm like, wow, that's really cool. You know, like it was built by hand by them, and
Amazing.
yeah. So I've never wanted to leave. I couldn't imagine.
Well, good for you.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you have been able to stay here, because I know that's not always the case for everybody. So
Right.
what a blessing.
Yes.
When did your interest in photography start?
When I was little.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't do anything with it until I was like almost 30 years old. Well, like, okay, my child is now 14, so 14 years ago. And I was like 24 then,
Okay.
so my math is bad.
It's all good.
But my grandparents, me and we're a very close family, and my Nini and Papa were my best friends, and I stayed the night with them all the time. Nini babysat me, and I would sit in their living room, and they had like a Sears Roebuck. I don't even know if I said that right, but a Sears, like an old vintage Sears shoebox.
Okay.
And inside that box, it looks like something straight out of the 50s and 60s, this shoebox does. But it's like this tattered and torn tan and brown shoebox. And in there was just tons of black and white photos. And I would sit there, And it kind of reminds you of that Jamie Johnson song, You Should Have Seen It in Color. I
Uh-huh.
can't listen to that song without crying because they're gone now.
Yeah.
And so that shoebox was full of just photos, like old photos of Papa in the Korean War, Nini's senior pictures, like this story of my Nini and Papa's life together, and my dad growing up, my uncle growing up. It was beautiful. And I was like, they would tell me those stories, and I would look at those pictures, and it gave me like a clear picture of what life was like during a generation I wouldn't know anything about without their stories and without their pictures. And so I think that, and my dad, he's also really big into history, especially family history.
Okay.
And when it comes down to it, to me, photography is preserving your history, your family history. It may not be a history that's in the history books you learn about at school, but it's important.
Yeah.
And so that is what made me love it. Like growing up, I wanted to always capture my family just in the mundane, everyday things. Like I loved, just having something that I could one day look back on, because I knew one day things would be different. We would look different. And I'm glad I did that. So
I'm sure they treasure those too.
well, I didn't take I didn't take a lot of photos back then, but my parents would get me the black and white little 35 millimeter film cameras, at Walmart and stuff.
Yeah.
And I would like pose my sisters in my bedroom like I was a studio, like I was a JCPenney studio. And so I really always wanted to do something with photography, but once I got a little bit older, I was like, well, how do I make money around here? This is such a small town. You see these Hollywood photographers and things like that, but I was kind of stuck in that mindset that you needed to go work at Jack Daniels, or you needed to, leave and go to a big city to do something kind of creative. And that's not the case. You can do that. You can be creative anywhere in the world. And I did it right here in this small town. I love it.
That's so great. I love that story. So it was when your first kid was born that you
That's when I
went
actually
professional,
started.
so to speak?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he was born in 2010. And my husband had actually given me a camera a year in advance from that. And I just let it sit in the box. Like I told him, I would love to take pictures. I'd just be going down the road and there would be like a structure, something beautiful that was about to come down. I'd want to capture it. I just was always like, with my cell phone, thank goodness now we can do that. But even back then, and that wasn't that long ago, but cell phones have evolved.
Yeah.
So I had like just a point and shoot camera.
Okay.
And I was always taking pictures, and it kind of stopped working on me. Like I had it for a really long time, and he invested in like an actual real camera. It wasn't very good, but it was expensive for us at the time.
And super thoughtful.
It was. So technically he got me started too, like he bought me my first camera. Once Lucas came along, I started taking pictures of him and the stages of his life, because I knew one day I want this little boy to look back and see his family history. I want him to look back and have something to pass on for generations to come of his own, of his story. And I could, it's crazy. You don't see your kids growing up until you look back into photos. And then that's when you really see the changes and the difference.
Yeah.
Like we don't see it with our eyes.
Right.
And I didn't actually open my business until about 2012 is when I started getting paid.
Okay.
I was shooting, I shot some weddings for friends back then in 2010. And I didn't know what I was doing. I can't believe they allowed me to do that. But they knew I was new and didn't really have the proper equipment, but they still trusted me. And I'm still so thankful for those families, because without them encouraging me, I wouldn't have, continued to go out there and pursue it. But I'm just so thankful.
I love it. Do you remember your first paid customer?
I do. So they gave me $50.
Okay.
And I did a buttercup session. I don't even know. I'm trying to think. So my husband's grandpa, whose land we live on, he, for generations and generations, like in Lois, there are just hundreds of daffodils. I don't know if they're daffodils or buttercups. Okay, I don't know the difference.
Okay. Or if there is a difference, I don't either.
I don't know. I know people always correct me, and I'm like, well, I'm not sure what these are.
Okay.
I should know by now, but anyway, so it just hundreds of them line or in our field. And so I remember being like, you know what, I want to take pictures of my neighbors' kids and stuff like this out there. And it's funny because I actually just shot his wedding, and he was like, I don't know, he was in elementary school when I took these pictures.
Wow.
And they're terrible. He didn't remember me doing them, but I think his mom gave me like $20, $50, something like that. And we shot out in those flowers in my yard, or not my yard, but in technically the cattle field.
Okay.
And so now every year I do mini sessions out there. And I mean, they've been there since, like, Brett's grandpa used to come out there and pick flowers for his wife. And he would tell me, like, oh, I used to come out here as a boy and pick these. So they've been there for a long time. And so it's neat to be able to use that. But that's where my first little paycheck came from, was in that field.
That's great. So how did you figure out, like, your style?
It took a long time. I love film, but I'm just too scared to shoot it. And I'm afraid that, what if I shoot a wedding and, something happens to the rolls of film? So I just stick to digital because I can look back and I know they're there.
Yeah.
Even though I know God would have everything covered, but film is definitely an inspiration. And one day I would like to transition to do more film for my client work, but I haven't yet. So.
Yeah. And do you do, from what I've seen, you do a lot of outdoor?
Yes, it's mostly outdoors. I love that, I guess, look of light. And they say light and airy, but to me, it's just a lot of light.
Yeah.
Photography is painting with light. So that's, what I do. Like, I'll look and, looking out this window right here, there's some great places, in the middle of the day to take pictures, like under that beautiful shade tree out there. So I just see light, I think, a little differently than like the average person. So I know where to go, where you're just engulfed in this beautiful light. So you shine through it, so.
You just have that natural eye.
I guess so.
You're born with it. Yeah. How did you, over time, develop your business structure? Because sometimes I think it's hard to be a creative and a business person, but
it is.
Yet it's possible. And so how did you kind of navigate that and figure out how to build your business structure?
Yeah. So my minor in college was entrepreneurship.
Love it.
Yeah, but I will tell you, I didn't learn a ton by sitting in the classroom. It was all after, once you're in the trenches, building that business.
Yes. Hands-on.
Yes. And a lot of people don't realize, like, when they think of a creative business, they're like, oh, how fun, how glamorous, what a charmed life you live.
Yes.
And that is not the case.
Yeah.
Because we are creative, but then we also have to be business oriented. And it's hard to do both, but it's possible. You just have to, I've really had to learn, as I go. We've got to do our taxes. We've got, there's a lot more business to it than there is the creative side, So discipline, you have to be very disciplined. Sometimes creatives, we just want to do not just the fun stuff, but if I could just take the pretty pictures and post them out there and that be it, well, that would be a pretty charmed life,
Right. Yes.
But we build, you have to build, clients and client relationships that's important. So it's more than just, taking pretty pictures. And when I first started, I kind of thought it was just taking pretty pictures. And then I realized, no, I've got to be good at marketing. I've got to be good at all the things and customer service. And it's like I'm my own little human resources person. Like, if you bring people onto your team to help you, like you've got to make sure that they fit the brand. So I kind of built my business as I went. I got my license and everything, and then I didn't know what I was doing. And sometimes today I still don't know what I'm doing, but it's almost 14 years later and I'm still going.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of learned. I was self-taught. And, I took a lot of the things I learned in college for entrepreneurship along with me, but it was meeting other business owners and other photographers that really helped me. We're here to help one another. We're not here to compete. And I think, we can get stuck in that mindset, and we just kind of got to get out of that mindset and ask for help. And the help is out there. So.
Yes, it takes a village as a
It
business
really does.
owner. So,
It really does. Yeah.
What has surprised you most about the business?
Well, I think whenever I was younger, growing up, I wanted to be a photographer. I remember that when I was in high school, which is across the street from where we're at now,
Yes.
our only school. When I was a senior in high school, the teacher told us, "Hey, there was an essay that was due, and it was like the end of the year, and I believe it was a business class, and we were to write an essay over the career we wanted to go into." And I remember her saying, "Close your eyes and imagine what you want to, be a part of whenever you get out of here." And I closed my eyes, and I don't even remember what I actually wrote about, but I closed my eyes, and it's weird because I pictured myself under this big shade tree in the middle of a hayfield at sunset taking pictures. I know. I've really, truly always wanted to do this.
It's like been a dream.
It really has. And I remember going, okay, well, I can't do that. Like, that's what makes me happy. It was like those little God whispers,
Yeah.
like God truly gave me this purpose, and I give all the glory back to him 100%. But I didn't think that I could make a living doing it in this town, to be honest.
Yeah.
And so what surprised me the most would be that I did.
Yeah.
I mean, truly, because I've really never, we need to start believing in ourselves more, and we need to believe in our communities more, that they're going to, support you and you can serve them. And so I'm very thankful for that. But that truly is what surprised me the most, is that people wanted to hire me. They trusted me. When you're a creative, when you're a photographer or a videographer or something in that field, an artist, you're working with people on a very personal level. So my social media, I try to be pretty personable on there. I used to be better at social media than I am now. We kind of go through stages where we're active and then where we're not very active.
Yes.
But when my children were little, I shared what it was like being a stay-at-home mom photographer. And I share a lot of my faith. I believe in spreading the word of God anywhere we can. And so on social media, I try to get it to where people truly get to know the real me.
Yeah.
A lot of people show, like, you see the highlight reel, but you don't ever see a lot of behind the scenes. And, here I am in here with wet hair today, just the real human version of myself.
Yeah.
Because that's where people are going to open up the most, in front of my camera, is with someone that they feel like they know.
Yeah.
I need to become, clients aren't just clients, they're friends. It's going to be hard to, kiss and snuggle and go forehead to forehead and all those little things in front of a camera if you don't trust that person.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
I'm getting a picture of us kissing, but you'll get that genuine smile, their genuine personalities, when they feel like they also know a little bit about you too. So,
speaking of that, it is unique to be in a small town, and I'm sure the approach is different than it would be in a city. And I feel like sometimes word of mouth is your best friend in a small town because
Absolutely.
that's how the word gets out.
Yeah.
And everybody shares all your stuff, which is great.
Yeah.
What do you love about being a small town photographer?
Well, I love everything about it. A lot of my clients are from the bigger cities around here.
Okay, interesting.
And they love coming down here to Lynchburg. On our farm. I'm very thankful that I have, well, they actually moved, but they still have a piece of their farmland. But I used to have neighbors, and they would let me use, like, you can just see all the beautiful Lynchburg rolling hills, in the background from up on top of their hill, and they still let me use that. And there's little, like, hidden gems around here, right over from where we're sitting here talking, you look over in that field and everything is just so beautiful. And you see all the Tennessee rolling hills and everything. And clients in cities don't get to see that.
Yeah.
So they love coming down here and having their pictures taken. But I do love the fact that most of the people, whenever I do photograph locals, I've known them for most of my life. It's pretty neat to see. There's people that I've photographed when they were children up until they got married, and it becomes like a full circle moment, and it's just, that's such a blessing, to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You get to play a very special role in their lives.
Yes, I love it.
So how big of an area do you serve? Because Lynchburg is, just to give people a little perspective, like how far from Nashville?
So whenever I have photo shoots in Nashville, it takes me about an hour and 45 minutes to get there from here.
Okay.
And then on the other side, down in Alabama, I do a lot of shooting in Huntsville, or I have a lot of Huntsville clients that come here. And that is about an hour.
Okay.
So, and then there's Murfreesboro, which is about an hour. So, we're small, we're rural. So, but we're also kind of surrounded by all these beautiful big cities. If we want to get to them, we can.
Yeah.
But we come back here to live.
Right.
I couldn't live in those places.
Right.
But nothing wrong with them, though.
Right. It's just not for you.
Not for me.
Yeah. What's kind of surprising to me is that all those people want to come here.
They do.
Which is amazing.
Yes. So now I love whenever a client has a piece of property, it doesn't matter how big it is. If it's yours, it is special. It is special to your story. I don't care if it's an acre or 100 acres, So I always first start out with my clients, if there's a place special to y'all, that's where I want to go. I can always find the great light there. I want it to be all about you. And if they don't really have a place in mind, then we use one of mine. We use a spot that you can find on social media. I'll tell them, go look at my Instagram page and see what kind of look stands out to you. Sometimes people want to go somewhere, completely unique to them. Like I had a couple that live here, but they're more the Nashville scene.
Okay.
So we were like up on top of a parking garage taking their pictures just a few weeks ago. I just finished that session. That's why it's on my mind. And then, but my favorite place to shoot is here in Lynchburg. I think it's beautiful to be able to share it with people.
Yeah, it's very beautiful here.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite time of day to shoot?
I do like sunset.
Yeah.
Most photographers do.
Yeah.
Just because the light's not so harsh and bright. But when you become a wedding photographer, you can't be afraid of lighting throughout the entire day. So, I've really trained my eye to be able to find good light in any situation. And there are some photographers that just blow my mind with what they do in the middle of the day, like in full sun. Like their edits on those types of photos are beautiful. I'm not good at that. Like I know what I'm good at, and I just kind of stay in that area. But yeah, I love sunsets, and it kind of is weird. It goes back to that memory I have of myself when I was picturing what I wanted to become when I grew up. And it was like, I even had an artist recreate that vision that I had. And it was a sunset image of a field and a tree and me with a little camera. And so, sunset's a photographer's dream.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody who has a similar dream and they're like, I am out here in this small town. I don't even know if I can do this. I know nothing about it.
Yeah.
How would you encourage them to get started?
Go for it.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. Fear is just going to hold you back. There's never a right time to start a business. Kind of like when you get ready to have children, there's never a right time to have a child. Like, you're always going to be like, oh, I need to get ready I need to prepare for this, put money back for this, do this. Life be lifing,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you just got to go with it. We don't know how long we have on this earth. And if God put it in your heart, he's going to carry you through. And if you have this dream, it's there for a reason. God gave it to you. Do not be afraid to chase it, and pray over it, and pray that God leads you to the people that can help lift you up as you're building it, because it gets hard. And then even though I've built my business, it's still hard. I rely on so many of my entrepreneurial friends and photographer friends to keep me going. So yeah, just do it.
So good. And is there any equipment or things like that you would recommend just to start out?
To start out. Starting out in photography, I started out very, very small. I had a photographer tell me, get kind of the cheapest camera. So I started out with a Rebel, a little Canon Rebel, and invest more in lenses in your glass. And I did that. And every time I would get a booking, I would just, during those early days, I was not getting paid, but maybe like $100 to shoot a wedding, because they were like my guinea pigs.
Yeah.
They knew going in, though, that I let them know, this is your wedding. Are you sure you want this new person capturing it for you? And they knew me. It really was my locals here that got me started. And I'm so thankful for that. I wish I could go back and reshoot a lot of those weddings looking back now, but we all grow.
Yeah.
We all evolve and we all grow, and I was still finding my style. So up front, don't invest in the best equipment. Especially as a photographer, you can start out on your iPhone. I mean, you really can.
Yeah.
It's all about what you see, and then, bringing that to life for them to see. And so, yeah, don't get yourself in debt, first of all. Don't do that. Just, and as money starts coming in, then invest in a little higher end equipment. Yeah.
Okay. So good. What's next for you?
I'm happy where I'm at. But I will say there are things that I've always wanted to do with my photography that I've yet to do. And Kayla will attest to this, because she's heard my dreams. There is a book that I've always wanted to recreate, and I believe she has a copy of it in here somewhere. But when back to this, me being a kid at my Nanny and Papa's house, they also had this book, and it was titled Lynchburg. And there was a man by the name of the Hillbilly Snap Shooter back in, I think, the 60s or 70s. Maybe it was the 70s. He would go from small town to small town and photograph them and tell the stories through poetry. It was beautiful. He's not alive anymore. He's no longer here, and I forget exactly where he was from. He wasn't from here. But talk about a rural revival podcast star he would be.
Yeah.
But that's what he did. He went and he just photographed these small towns. And I always wanted to do that, because yes, I know looking back at those books, it's very nostalgic to see what it was like back then, or the people who lived back then, to look back. And I know when you look at this town, you kind of see it more as a tourist town now, but there's a heartbeat outside of the big corporation that's here. And that's these small town people and these farmers and the older generation, and they're disappearing so fast, the older generation. So I always wanted to like recreate one of his books and tell the stories of the people here now. I just haven't done that yet, and I've been wanting to do that for a decade. So
I love that. You absolutely should do that.
yeah.
Okay.
And but yeah, so
Keep
that's
us
something
posted when that comes
I
out.
need to. Look, I put it out there. So, and my dad, he is into history, family history. And like I said, that's what photography is. It's preserving your family history as an heirloom to pass down for generations to come. And my dad, he's a character. Like, he is so country and looks like a mountain man, sits on the front porch and whittles, like all of that. He has the look. And I remember before like YouTube and all that got really big, I would be watching shows like American Pickers and stuff like that on the History Channel. And I was like, it would be so cool to like go around with my dad and interview and photograph and video this older generation that's leaving us too soon.
Yes.
And hear their stories and preserve it. Kind of like American Pickers do with their antiques, and their findings. And I never did that. So I should, because TikTok's a big thing now. So I thought that would be a really cool TikTok to do with my dad. So Dad, we need to do that.
Yes, that would be really fun.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yes.
Well, how do we follow along with you?
So I have Facebook and Instagram. You can search Stacy Preston Photography there. My website, I need to fix it. It is currently down, which is bad marketing, I know. But I do also have a website that does have like all my galleries that you can look at on there as well. So, but all that's linked in my bio and Instagram, on Instagram. So
perfect. Okay. Well, we will put that in the show notes.
Yes.
Stacy, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much. You're adorable.
I loved this conversation.
I want to just follow you everywhere you go.
You can be my roadie.
Please.
Okay.
I love it.
Well, I just love the heart behind Stacy's business and her take on photography. I want to have a little more of that perspective in my approach to photos and preserving our family legacy. If you're thinking about getting started as a small town photographer, there's a link to some of Stacy's favorite gear in our show notes. So be sure to go check that out and give her a follow. Her photos are amazing. Huge thanks to Stacy for being on the podcast, and thanks to you for tuning in. Have a great day, everybody.